Is the Japanese Language Proficiency Test at the lowest level N5 easy? Just last week, I rode up to Sendai to take the JLPT N5. If you're not aware, the Japanese Language Proficiency Test is a test given by Japan to measure your Japanese language skills. And if you get certification in a really high level, that really helps you find more jobs in Japan. So if you're a foreigner in Japan that plans on staying in Japan for a long time, it is a really, really good thing to do. N5 is at the lower level, the easiest test, and then once you get up to the N1, that's a much harder test. Many jobs in the medical field, for example, will require N1, whereas maybe some other jobs in tech or something similar will only require N2. You have a lot of people that will say, oh, well, what is the point of taking the lower levels? What is the point of taking the N5 or the N4? I expressed that I wanted to take the N5, and I already had people kind of asking me why I would do that. Why should I spend the $60 to take the test? And yeah, I want to make it clear that getting an N5 certification isn't really something that you need, and the actual piece of paper that says that you passed the test isn't really going to get you anywhere in Japan. However, some people like myself like to take the lower level tests in order to test our own knowledge and to use it as a motivator or use it as a standard of where I would like to be by a certain time. I think if you're like me and you're a bad test taker and you were never really that great at academics, I would go ahead and take the lower level tests even if you don't think you'll pass. I think it's a really good experience to get a feel for the test and a feel for the day. Before the test, I've been using a lot of different books to study. It's really good to use multiple sources, but Genki was one of them. I spent not a whole lot of time in this one and a lot more time in this because this book has actual test questions from the N5 and N4, or very similar test questions to what you might find on the actual test. This book is good for just starting out. I kind of wanted a refresher on the hiragana and katakana and a lot of the more simple kanji, not because I didn't know them, but mostly because you have to be able to read fast on the test because it's timed, and I wanted to make sure that I could read fast enough to finish the test. So it's always good to go back to the basics, I think, for at least the N5. I have a lot of vocabulary written down. Don't mind the kanji. I was not as really concerned about a lot of the kanji here because you only need to know 100 kanji for the test. I was more concerned with the vocabulary because generally you need to know about 400 to 600 vocabulary words for the N5. Now, getting onto the question here, was the test actually easy? I hear it thrown out a lot that, oh, N5 is easy, you'll pass it no problem, you barely have to study for it, and that is really wrong, I think. Yes, obviously the N5 is really, really easy compared to N4, N3, N2, and N1. I do want to make it clear before I continue, I'm not actually sure yet if I pass the N5. I get my results in about a month or so, but I did want to make this video to keep everything as fresh as possible and not be biased and say, oh, well, I passed, so it was easy, or maybe I could say, oh, I didn't pass, it's really hard. I just kind of want to let you guys know what I thought of the test coming straight out of it without any of my results being known. I went in the test being really confident that I would nail the kanji parts. Vocabulary I was a little bit worried about. And there's also a listening segment. The listening I was super worried about. I think I went into the test thinking I was going to completely bomb the listening. Fortunately, I think I did really, really well on kanji and vocabulary. But man, the one thing that I did not expect, which I personally think makes the test more difficult, is the timing. On the voucher that the JLPT sends you with your information, your test number, where the location of the test is going to be, it gives you times for each segment of the test, and there's 3 segments. I don't remember the exact times, but say it'll give you 30 minutes for vocabulary, 45 minutes for reading, and 30 minutes for listening. These times actually weren't exactly accurate because they spent about 10 minutes passing out the Scantrons and the test booklets and making sure that everyone wrote their information down correctly, so that takes some time, so you don't exactly get as much time as listed on the voucher, and that was something I did not expect at all. So for me, I wouldn't even say the vocabulary is hard. I would just say that you need to be mindful of the time. You can't just stick on one question for more than a minute, because honestly, you have less than a minute for each question. So if you spend more than 60 seconds on a question, you basically have to move on. And that's kind of what I did, is I would go through and I would just skip the ones I didn't know immediately, and then at the end, when I had an extra 5 minutes left, I would fill in some. And admittedly, because time was so against me, there are sections of the test where I had to go back and just fill in the Scantron. It's better to fill things in than leave them blank, because obviously if you leave them blank, you're going to get them wrong. At least you have a chance if you go back and fill in some. I think my one regret about the N5 was my reading comprehension and my speed. As I said earlier, I did keep in mind that I would have to read faster, but man, time was really more against me than I thought, and I just kept looking at the clock and worrying about time, and I would skim read, and I would understand every single individual word, but the comprehension of what the reading was trying to tell me was just not there. I was not comprehending what I was reading. So that was really against me there. So I think for reading, which normally I'm pretty good on in real life, I feel like my reading is okay. Reading really got me during the test though. As far as the listening part, I'll just go ahead and tell you now, when I am at work, when I'm out in public, people talk so fast and listening always gets me, and I can never really grasp quite what they're trying to say, so I was really worried about listening. However, I was kind of surprised I think I did better on listening than I thought I was going to do. So basically everything was switched. I feel like I read Japanese better than I listen to it and translate it. However, on the test it was switched. I did so much worse on the reading and so much better on the listening part. So again, back to the question, was it difficult? I think parts of it were difficult. I don't think the actual contents of the tests were difficult, given that you study. I think it was mostly the time that was the most difficult. It was the time management. Through surveys, it said to pass the JLPT N5, you need at least 300 to 600 hours of studying, which does not at all compare to the amount of hours you need to pass, say, the N2 or the N1, or even master the language for that matter. However, this does kind of suggest that maybe spending 30 minutes a day on Duolingo for an entire year still won't be enough to maybe fully be able to comprehend everything on the JLPT N5. I feel like when a lot of people are talking about the N5, they just act like, oh, just show up. You've watched anime before, you know your hiragana and katakana, you know the days of the week in kanji, you'll be totally fine. Which is very possible that they could be, but as someone who is a really bad test taker and struggles with reading comprehension, I knew that I need to study as much as possible. So it's really difficult to say whether the N5 is easy or not. I think to some people, yeah, it's totally easy. Put in a couple hundred hours of studying, you could ace 100% the thing if you wanted. However, there are some people that will study for this thing for 600 plus hours and then totally bomb the test when they get there. And I think it's less about the contents and more of just the stress of actually taking the test. This all said, again, the N5 doesn't really do anything for you besides help you. In fact, one of my friends at the JLPT noticed that there were a couple guys cheating. That's really bad. Don't do that, obviously. But there's really no point in cheating on the N5. The N5 is only there to help you and help you keep track of your progress. So if you're cheating on it to get the certification, there is really no point in doing that at all. Anyways, I will not know my result for about another month or so, and honestly, it's a coin toss. It could go either way. I think I did well at vocabulary, really bad at reading, and maybe so-so at listening. So I don't know. If I fail, I think I will know that it was mostly the time was against me and I need to work on reading faster and not staying on one question too long. If I pass, I still feel like I wouldn't have passed with that much confidence, so I feel like I still need to go back and study some of the things that are in the N5 and of course the N4 if I decide to take that at another time. Anyway guys, I know Japanese language videos isn't the most exciting kind of video, but please stay tuned because I will be going to Tokyo in a few days. I'll be doing some more anime cafe videos, and I'll actually be traveling to America and going to Otakon in Washington DC, which starts in I think 2 weeks. So I hope to see you guys there, and I will definitely be vlogging that adventure too. Thanks for watching, and I will play with you some other time.